Yeah, hello. Welcome to our fourth live stream of Tech Roles Uncovered. This is a series of live events where we are talking about different roles in tech, but also about the career journey of our guests. As you know, this is a live event and you can participate or add value to this format by asking questions, but also sharing your experience or adding any other comment to the comment sections of LinkedIn and YouTube. Feel free if you have anything that you want to ask our guests to add that in the comments, and then we will answer that during our stream. Today's topic and today's role that we are talking about is the platform engineer. And for this, I invited an amazing guest. And during my research, I was quite impressed about his broad experience about the different topics in tech that he already worked with. So he started or has experience with web development, but he also worked as a software architect. He has experience with data engineering, business analytics, and machine learning, and the list is still continuing. And now he has also experience with platform engineer, which I'm really happy to talk with him today. He worked at Autoscout24, but also at Twitter. And recently he joined Personio as a lead platform engineer. I'm really happy to have him here today, and I'm very excited. Say hello to Martin Lechner.
Hi, folks, and thank you, Sarah, for having me here. I'm super excited about this opportunity to have a chat with you and also present platform engineering to a wider audience, and also happy to answer all of your questions which might arise around platform engineering, but also like general software engineering topics.
That was a great introduction. Thank you, Martin. So the pleasure is especially on my side. I'm really happy that you take the time, especially during this very nice weather outside, and that we're going to talk a little bit about platform engineering and especially your career journey and your current role. But before we dig deep into the topic, you know already that I prepared some either or questions for you. And I also want to start with that. If you're ready, then we can start.
Ready whenever you are.
Best answer. So the first question is quite easy, I would say. So, do you prefer working from home office or do you prefer going to the office?
It's actually a super interesting question. I personally prefer a hybrid approach. I really believe in social interactions with other people, and it has been proven for me throughout my career that it's super valuable to meet with your coworkers. From
Mhm.
a pure like productivity perspective, I find more peace and focus at home. So right now, at Personio, we have like a Personio Flex, where the expectation is around that people are 50% in the office and can work 50% from home, which seems to be an awesome mix for me.
Mhm. Nice. So you have the flexibility and you definitely take that. Nice. So, my second question, I know that you studied in Munich. I think you also live near Munich, if I'm correct. So, where is, or yeah, where can we most like you meet you in Munich? Is it either at Allianz Arena or on the Wiesn, Oktoberfest, or is it in English Garden?
I think that's also an interesting question, given I hadn't been in Munich for quite a while before joining Personio. Overall, I'm a bit more drawn to the nature, so
Mhm.
most likely you could even find me at the Ammersee, which is pretty close
Mhm.
to where I live. So on the weekends, I enjoy some a bicycle tour with my family to the lake, having like an um, awesome ice cream, doing a bit of
Mhm.
stand-up paddling, and yeah.
Nice. Sounds like a plan. So, Ammersee and the summer is coming. So, find you near the lake. Nice. So, next question. Either or, do you prefer macOS or Linux?
Given that I had been working exclusively on Mac since like I don't know 10 years now,
Mhm.
it's an easy question for me. I really enjoy the UX of Mac, and that it's like just works without fiddling around too much. Although my private computer is Linux based, because I was like looking for a lightweight all alternative, and I wasn't looking for like everything working out of the box, maximum efficiency. So yeah, for working for sure it's Mac. For like
Mhm.
private tinkering around, Linux is really cool.
Oh, nice. So for work, so at Personio, you're using Mac, if I, okay.
Yeah.
And the fourth question. I saw you have a blog and you have your own website. It's, I have to take Lechner.work, and where you can find some background information about you. And there's also a section about books that you are recommending. And which of these two books would you most likely read for a second time? Is it Advanced Scala with Cats, or is it Better Allies?
Um, Given that I'm not working with Scala anymore, and I really see like benefits in enabling other people, and I see this as like part of my lead role.
Mhm.
I'm picking better allies because it like really focuses on helping other people in underrepresented groups, especially women,
Mhm.
to get like better careers and like a better standing,
Mhm.
which I find really important. In my opinion, we have a very bad percentage of like females in software engineering, and I hope that like one day it will change. Fun
Mhm.
fact: it seems to be a very European thing. For instance, in like India, the percentage is much higher,
Mhm.
and I think it basically also gives some food for thought for the country leaders and the education leaders, if we are like influencing women into the wrong
Mhm.
direction.
Mhm. Really, really cool. So that is something, a book recommendation that we will also link into our video that is going to be online after our talk. So it was called Better Allies. It's about how to create inclusive workplaces. So thank you very much. Last but not least, last introduction question. You're a coffee lover. So, would you prefer to drink an espresso or a manual brew coffee?
Um, in general, I really enjoy doing my manual brews, and if given the choice, I'm like most of the time preferring this. When I'm in a hurry, I think an espresso works out better because like the preparation time for like a manual brew, heating up water,
Mhm.
grinding, and then doing some like ritual, taking I don't know 4 to 5 minutes, and with an espresso, I put the beans into the grinder, grind it through, temp it, get it out, and it's like I don't know 45, 50 seconds maybe. So for quickness, I really prefer the espresso, but my love is with the manual brewing methods.
Beautiful. I don't know if that went out to the audience outside. I just posted the blog post that you were written about coffee. It was really amazing. I enjoyed reading it. And yeah, that was the start, the introductory question. Thank you very much. Now we know you already a little bit better. But of course, we also want to hear your introduction. So maybe if you could briefly introduce yourself, what are you doing? Where are you working? Yeah, Martin, I'm happy to hear about your story.
Cool. Thank you, Sarah. My name is Martin, as mentioned already. I'm currently working as a lead platform engineer at Personio. Personio is a European HR software scale-up. We have around 8,000 customers in Europe, and we're growing every day.
Mhm.
There have been some like funding rounds. It's a unicorn, so the valuation at the time of the last funding round was over 1 billion euros. And we're massively hiring right now for like staff and senior roles,
Mhm.
both in like platform engineering and like also in a product engineer, where other companies are firing people.
Mhm.
Overall, I really enjoy the spirit of the company and the people, and the culture there is real. I've met so many awesome people as like part of my role. I really can recommend working there.
Mhm.
Um, Maybe a bit more about myself then. I used to study bioinformatics in Munich,
Mhm.
then switched over for the master's to computer science. During my studies, I was working as a working student in like various places, which I can highly recommend to all of the listeners, especially if you're still like studying. This is valuable experience you would miss out.
Mhm.
Um, After studying, I was working for 4 years in a contracting company called Yambit.
Mhm.
In there, we were doing software projects with a wide array of customers, from known newspapers to known car manufacturers, to also some like smaller companies. Even I was working with a startup, working on a very cool product. Um, yeah, and then afterwards, I had the feeling that I needed to move like from this consulting angle more into like a product angle, because it's like a different way of working.
Mhm.
And when I get bored, I'm looking for new experiences, and you'll see that throughout my career.
Definitely, I saw that.
um, so I joined Autoscout 24. At the time when I joined there, it was one of the most advanced tech companies in Munich. If we like factor out maybe like the big players such as
Mhm.
Google. And I spent there also around 4 years. I started as a senior, and when the tech lead of the team left, I stepped first time into like a tech lead role, and with in the end of the tenure there, I was also working on company level initiatives, and also on like steering the tech ecosystem of
Mhm.
the company basically. And this is also like where I got my first experiences with like platform engineering. So we had some like platform engineering there, but it was mostly focused on like infrastructure tooling. So like infrastructure and like tooling. Um, and what I was really missing from a developer perspective was like a focus on developer experience. Like
Mhm.
things which should be easy were hard. Um, like bootstrapping a new service with the latest best practices which we had at the company, establishing new ways of working. And then we founded basically a small like part-time working group focusing on this, where I could dedicate 20% of my time. Shout out to Iñaki, Adam, Laka, and Diego. It, it was a really cool group, highly self-contained, and still like providing, in my opinion, a lot of value to the company. For instance, we were rolling out a new tool for deployment, which is the AWS CDK. Before that, we were writing basically deployments in CloudFormation, and this is a YAML file format, and this is like super verbose. So you would basically define all of the resources which you need for your application on the cloud infrastructure, and needed to like specify all of the fields, and like manually create the links between the components. Because for instance, your service needs to read from like a database. This is like, I don't know, 50 lines of CloudFormation. And with the new tool, it gave us a bit more like a programmatic approach to this, which then meant basically this 50 lines were like one line. And with that, the deployment experience become a lot better. The application descriptions basically became more expressive, and we've seen like a high benefit. Also, this allowed to establish some common standards across the company with regards to like tagging your infrastructure components in a good way, writing tests for your infrastructure. I mean, this wasn't really like possible before and afterwards. It became possible, and I think like that was one of the examples which we were doing there.
Now we are already really deep inside the topic. So thank you for the insights. However, I think it's quite like beneficial if you could also give like a brief introduction. What is platform engineering in general? So what it is and what's the main goal of platform engineering?
I think you'll find like a million different ways of describing that, and like depending on whom you ask, you get like different answers here. My vision here is that platform engineering serves to reduce cognitive load on developers, and this is like manifold. So imagine you're a developer and you wanna develop something. You need to care about how do you deploy your things, on which infrastructure is it running, how do I write the tests, can I reuse existing best practices, do I have like linting formatting for my stuff. And I think like one of the goals of platform engineering is to enable people to not reinvent the wheel, and make it easy to do the right thing. And what I can observe recently is more of like a split in platform engineering into two like main areas. There is like this infrastructure engineering side of things, which is mainly focused on like providing some like underlying infrastructures such as Kubernetes, managing some cloud infrastructures like AWS or Google Cloud Platform or Azure, providing, I don't know, like databases for users, running, I don't know, Kafka, running Kubernetes, And on the other hand, and this is where I'm currently working in, is like developer experience. We
Mhm.
aim to enable developers to focus more on the business logic and care less about the technical parts and
Mhm.
the repetitive parts.
Mhm. So, could you also give us an example on what you're currently working on at Personio, especially regarding developer experience and how to improve it?
Yeah, sure. So for instance, one of the things I had been working on is integrating our canary deployment solution. So this is a solution for like progressive deployments, which aims to basically make deploying software more safe
Mhm.
by gradually like shifting over the traffic from the old version to the new version. So you have like two versions of your application running in parallel, and you gradually shift over traffic and observe some metrics, for instance, latencies or success rates. And
Mhm.
if the latencies or success rates become bad, you roll back basically to the old version. And the signals in there, which we had available, were basically limited to one metrics provider. And we also use another metrics service called Datadog, which is pretty
Mhm.
widely known. And one of my tasks there was like rolling out this integration with Datadog and the canary solution, and making it easy for the people to use.
Mhm.
Because in the end, around there, you have to configure some like credentials which the deployment system needs to like talk to the metrics provider. You need to build some metric queries. So we created some like sane defaults which people can easily use and plug into their service basically.
Mhm. So deployment is still at the product teams, so to say, but the kind of tools and platform and services that they are using are provided by your team, right?
Exactly.
Mhm.
So in the end, we are following a you build it, you run it principle. So the teams are basically responsible for running their software and making sure that it works. And the various platform teams are providing tools from like deployment over to like observability, understanding metrics, and getting, for instance, alarms if the service is malfunctioning for
Mhm.
whatever reason.
Mhm.
Yeah, in that sense, we are enabling basically this capability.
Mhm. Great. Really interesting and really hard to imagine to have such a team in a small company. So, probably you most often find platform teams in tech companies with multiple development teams participating or collaborating with platform teams so that it makes sense to also establish a platform team, isn't it?
I think the value of having people caring for the platform aspect of things is actually like starting pretty early. So even
Mhm.
if you have only two teams, probably having one or two people who care about like the shared things like infra and like advocating there for like best practices is most likely already uh, cost beneficial.
Mhm.
So I wouldn't say it's only linked to bigger places. In the end, of course, the more engineers you have, the more sophisticated platform you can build, basically, because you get more resources for hiring more people into your like platform teams, and with that you can go deeper into each of those topics. Overall, as I explained, like platform engineering is super wide, and you can do a lot of things. And like one of the market trends I can see is that there's also like a lot of startups coming up to with the promise to help smaller companies with the platform engineering and getting their developer experience right.
Mhm. So, for the people watching live right now, do you also have experience with platform engineering or developer experience? I think Martin and me, we would be really like excited to see if there are people watching that are also working in the same field. And second, if you have any questions for Martin about his career journey or about platform engineering, whatever it is, feel free to drop your questions and we are happy to answer them. Coming back to your journey, so it happened that you found interest in the topic of platform engineering, maybe also specifically developer experience already during AutoScout 24. Um, what happened in between, and what exactly involved or developed inside of yourself? What kind of experience did you do in order to decide to go for a lead platform engineering role like this year? So you started at Personio at the beginning of this year, and that's the first time that you have like this role specifically in your career track.
Um, the short answer is Elon Musk happened.
Okay.
The longer answer is I was working a few months with Twitter.
Mhm.
Was there on like a senior software engineer
Mhm.
role with a very cool team. Also working on providing values to SMBs
Mhm.
and making things easier for like SMB advertisers.
Mhm.
And then out of nowhere, half of my team was fired.
Oh.
And then like 2 weeks later, there was that mail from Elon with like fork in the road. Do you opt into hardcore engineering or not? And at
Mhm.
that time, I was basically on a remote contract,
Mhm.
and it meant for me that with everything which Elon said, that like remote will be cancelled, it would not be a wise choice to like opt in.
Mhm.
And then like a couple of days later, my access to everything was rev- revoked out of the blue. Um,
Okay.
and then I was like starting to look for a new job in December, and like end of December, also like the situation with Twitter has cleared out. And then end of January, I was out, and then I was like starting at Personio in the beginning of February. And why platform engineering? I really wanted to go a bit deeper into the area and focus more and like learn more about it, and what's a like better way of learning than doing it. So I'm like a learning by doing
Mhm.
kind of person. So I just applied, and they hired me.
Mhm.
um, and I think like what I'm bringing here to the table is like wide experience in the industry, especially as well in like product engineering orgs, also in like big tech orgs. And when Personio wants to scale, I think it's needed to have that kind of experience on board. And I had some super positive like interviews with the team, with my future manager. So it was basically a no-brainer to sign up with Personio and like try this out.
That is great. So, learning by doing person, this is something that we have to remember. We received a question by Alona. It would be interesting to hear how your role at Personio is different from what you had been doing at Twitter. Especially, I think, because you also switched from software engineering to platform engineering.
It's a super interesting question. Thank you so much for that. So at Twitter, you can imagine we had like a lot of people, and at Twitter, like the overall product wasn't super huge. So each of the teams was laser focused on like one very small area of the product. And it was a full product team there. So we had like a product manager, engineering manager, also like data people, and then some like full stack engineers, iOS engineers on the team. So they're basically the focus was really on like shipping software and providing value to end users. And here it's a bit different because the whole topic of DX is super wide. Also, the topics my current team has is super wide right now, and our focus isn't on like the end users, but really on like enabling other developers. And I think this is the key difference here. Also, I think like the success metrics, if you're like working on advertising, is more on focused around saving, making money and or saving money by like reducing infrastructure costs and whatnot. And at like platform engineering, at least our North Star is the four key metrics as popularized by the book Accelerate, which I can also recommend to anyone looking into like DevOps and research in that area. This is really insightful. So we aim to reduce the lead time to production, enable faster recovery in case we have incidents, have like a lower change failure rate. So essentially like lower amount of incidents. So yeah, I think this is like the key difference here.
That is really interesting. That was also a question that I had on my list, asking you about how you can measure the improvement of developer experience. So it's these four metrics that you just mentioned that you are working on together with your team, and that is also the metrics that you and your personal performance is measured by, right? So it's the like time to recovery, for example, and what you mentioned. That's exactly what it is.
I think like for the overall picture, we need to get a bit more deep, right? Because in the end, those are basically like delivery metrics. The other part to the equation is basically how happy are the developers with our offerings and products, and for that, for instance, you can run some surveys, calculate some scorings basically out of that. Yeah.
Okay. So it's a quantitative approach on the software and technical side, but also more or less a qualitative survey that you are regularly asking the developers how satisfied they are with the services that you are providing to them.
Exactly.
Oh, okay, nice. We have one comment from Tobias. Hi, Tobias. We also had a similar platform team like you described, Martin, at Brighter. I had a huge impact on reducing cognitive load and improve developer experience and I would say developer platforms, DP.
Productivity, probably.
Ah, okay. Developer productivity. Good. So, thanks, Tobias, for sharing your experience. Coming to the heart of our talk, of course, we also want to know how you spend your time on a like average basis, and I also ask you to provide me with some data. Yeah, so that's what it is. So you said that like most of the time, already 45% of your time, you are spending with coding. And what is also special for you is that you are lead platform engineer, which might differ a little bit from other team members, but I think that is something that we can add on later. So maybe can you explain us a little bit what exactly are you doing when you are saying you're coding 45% of your time?
Um, my team is basically providing some services and like tools for the rest of the organization. And while there is always this like build versus buy
Mhm.
question, in um, some cases it really makes sense to build our own custom tools.
Mhm.
For instance, one thing which we're not super happy with is like GitLab and how it integrates with Slack. So we're investing here a bit now into like making this frictionless and like
Mhm.
automate away certain things which developers repeatedly do. Like
Mhm.
we see behavior which developers do manually, and
Mhm.
then we'd like try to automate it away.
Mhm.
And this is like where the coding is spent. In retrospect, now looking at these numbers, maybe it's a bit less on the coding side and more on
Mhm.
like influencing and like
Okay.
training and
Mhm.
like being active and answering questions. But overall, I think this is like
Yeah.
roughly the
Roughly. It's I think
distribution.
it's clear that your week and your work day is changing constantly, and also you're still quite new at the company, so probably it would also change over time. But 45% is coding, so it's about providing interfaces, connecting services. What else? Is there more to mention for coding?
Well, I mean, I don't really say that. So we aren't like writing some like product engineering code, right? And
It seems like we should connect Martin with Manuel Grabowski from GitLab, who was the guest at our first episode, because he's a pod engineer. So probably we will connect you
also
with him, asking him for advice. Sorry, but now I interrupted you.
now, so yes, like mostly the coding work is on like internal tools. Also, like sometimes helping people with their like technical problems. Helping people in like pair programming sessions to like adopt our tools, um,
Mhm.
especially if we roll out new features and there's a few like early adopters. You cannot get everything right from the beginning, so you need to have like a short feedback cycle, be, basically between what you build and the people starting to adopt it, and unless you really nail the documents and caught every corner case the product engineers haven't find, there's also always this like support function involved, and I've also included this more in like the coding part because it's also really like deeply technical work in my opinion.
Mhm. Mhm. And then continuing, you have 20% of your time spending in meetings. What kind of meetings do you have at Personio, and which one do you attend as a lead platform engineer?
So there is like the usual team meetings, like a daily. We have like a
Mhm.
retro, some like hangout
Mhm.
with the team because we're also like distributed across Europe.
Mhm.
Um, and then there is like typical all hands meetings, some like leadership rounds,
Mhm.
some company wide technical sync rounds. Yeah, there's and then of course I'm also like meeting with other people, sometimes also from like the product engineering org to gather feedback, get some insights, and get close to the pulse of what's happening.
Mhm. Are meetings mandatory at Personio? Because we already discussed that in another episode.
So in the end, I think the stance is that if you don't provide value to a meeting, you should skip the meeting and like leave
Mhm.
the meeting even. Um, and we're actively like trying to reduce the amount of overall meetings because it's having like a high impact on the free time. In my
Mhm.
role as a lead platform engineer, it's not seeming excessively high to be in 20% meetings. Actually, I
Mhm.
think this is rather low compared to some previous places where I was in meetings all day.
Mhm. Okay, already a huge improvement, so to say. Okay. So 15% of your time goes into concept and design. What exactly are you doing?
In the end, we're looking at the problems which our customers have and like try to find solutions.
Mhm.
Usually we work in smaller groups to like prepare some like analysis on a topic, and then
Mhm.
like discuss it in the team and then refine and re um, iterate on that until we reach a basically an agreement within the team, like how we can solve the problem. And this is then before we really like start implementing.
Mhm. So I think the code reviewer, I think it's quite clear. So working, working quite technically on changes or yeah, features that teammates created. Training, is it people that you train or your own training, your own yeah career development? What do you mean by that?
Um, it's really like me training people. So
Mm-hmm.
that's can either be some like one-to-one conversations on like mentoring, coaching aspects, or also running some sessions for the team um, when I feel like we can do something better. It's usually good to not complain about it, but present a solution, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm finding this as like training.
Mm-hmm. And the last one is quite interesting. It's influencing. And probably that also fits to this question that we received. Do you need to justify the existence of your team? How do you measure? I think that's two questions. Probably the first one. How do you need to justify the existence of your team? Is that something that corresponds to influencing, or do you mean something completely different?
Um, Influencing means more being really close to the product engineers,
Hmm.
understanding the needs, but also helping out people to which do not know our solutions
Mm-hmm.
well and understand everything. It's more of like a developer relationships aspect,
Hmm.
basically.
Understand.
Also
Yeah.
doing a bit of like networking with other lead engineers in like other
Mm-hmm.
areas to um, get basically some like direct input. So I mean, we have like multiple ways of getting user feedback. We have like Slack channels. We have some like Jira service desk process. We have some tool where people can put in suggestions and can like upvote this. All of this is valuable, but I strongly believe that like personal interaction with people is invaluable. And to the question of Toby, no, we don't need to justify the existence of the team. We are in a very fortunate position that our senior leadership is coming from all over big tech, where it's super common to have like platform engineering. At least I don't have to like justify the existence of the team. In the end, when it comes to like growing the platform engineering team, it's probably like a different story, but I think this is like more on the head of the department level who has to bring up arguments why we need more people. And like mentioning the senior leadership, we like recently hired people from Meta, Twitter. Like another VP of engineering is from Uber, so this is like a pretty high, basically like standards of the leadership. And I mean, they've seen the platforms within the respective companies. I can only speak for Twitter, but what the platform teams were doing there is like super sophisticated, and each team was like also focusing only on a very narrow part of the platform, and it also made us like super effective. But for this, I think you always need to have like a healthy balance between like platform engineers and product engineers, because in the end, the product engineers is for are the people who like provide the real business value, while like platform engineering is more like a support function, right? So I don't fully know the percentage now. Here it's probably something like 8-1 to like 10-1 out of my head, and I think at least to me it feels kind of healthy right now.
Great. I have nothing to add here. The one thing that I recognize is sometimes you are talking about customers, sometimes about users, and sometimes about developers. In the end, your clients, your customers are always the developers. So if you're talking about clients, it's always the developers. We have one more question. And Martin, we are already a bit over time. Do you still have some minutes to answer this question?
All good.
So we have another one from Alona. Martin, do you have any advice for recruiters who reach out to you? What are the 3 main things that you want to see in the first outreach?
I think like one of the biggest mistakes I'm seeing recruiters make is not including some upfront numbers on compensation. I'd really also like to see what the position is even about. And third thing, I'm also always like curious about the company culture. Like, what is it to work there? What are the people about? Do you have some like company values which you can share, some vision? And actually, I think this is also one of the things where my current employer, Personio, has been super transparent about. You can find the company values and the company operating principles on the internet, which is super great.
Yeah, that's true.
And then it's like easy to figure out when you're doing like reverse interviewing. So for me, like interviewing isn't only that the company interviews me, but also that I'm interviewing the company. So I have like a sheet of, I don't know, 50 questions out of which I'm like fitting the questions to like figure out if the culture is real, if this is like an environment I can imagine working on. So yeah, I think, and now that I recall it, I think what always helps if like recruiters reach out is to not have this like standard email which you send to like 1,000 people. Like I'm
That's true.
deleting most of those, and I never have found a job through like recruiter spam on LinkedIn or thing. Most of this was through like network or like me finding a cool company.
Yeah. This is something that I can 100% agree with. So if you receive this recruiting spam that is completely, yeah, not even linked to your profile, sometimes they don't even mention your names. You know exactly that they are sending them like this same request to thousands of people, and this is not really attractive to people that have already seen some things. So, yeah, thank you very much, Alona, for your question. And last but not least, I see that Manu is also watching us. Hi, Manu, from GitLab. So, no agenda, no attender. That was his comment on this meeting section. And we learned it already in the first episode. So, if this is new to you, audience, have a look in our first episode together with Manu. And so now you can be sure that Manu is writing you after the talk about this GitLab integration to Slack. So I'm quite sure about that. So if there are, I think there are no more questions left. And then I would say I still have so many questions on my list, but I think that would definitely take a little bit longer to answer all them. So we definitely have to come back to this topic probably in the future. And if you like it, we can definitely make like a second episode, maybe in autumn or whatever. If you already, developed like over time in this role, and if you have even more experience to bring. Last but not least, I have a final question to ask you, Martin. So, for all those people, engineers outside that are thinking about platform engineering to join a platform team or to become a platform engineer themselves, are there any books, any websites, any blogs, anything that you would recommend to them to read or to take a look in order to learn a little bit more about platform engineering?
I think what helps is like the general classics around like DevOps
Mhm.
methodology, the Phoenix project, for instance.
Mhm.
There's Accelerate. Then I really enjoy the newsletter from
Mhm.
getdx.com. He's covering a lot of interesting questions. In general, I really recommend following some people on Twitter, or I don't know what's in the future.
Mhm.
There is like the CEO and CTO of Honeycomb, Charity Majors, and Liz Fong Jones.
Mhm.
Those are cool follows with like inspiration. There is at Sean Kassor at Twitter. She's the CEO of another observability company. Yeah, in general, I think what also really helps to get into platform engineering is being like a good overall software engineer. One of the recent books I've read, which I can recommend to everybody, is Modern Software Engineering by Dave Farley. He
Mhm.
also wrote, I think it was called Continuous Integration or Continuous Delivery, like one of those the classic books. And while this is also like included, it's going a bit more deep into like a scientific approach to software engineering, which is I think really valuable.
Mhm. We will definitely have to add all those valuable resources to the event links. I will definitely come back to you asking for all the links, and then we will provide it like for the audience also to take a look in all those great books and especially following the persons on Twitter. So thank you very much, Martin. You now have the high score for the longest episode, so I'm you definitely congratulations on that. Thank you very much for your time and giving us so many insights and yeah, an overview about platform engineering and your job and how you developed into this role. Um, if you yeah are interested to join our live event next week Thursday, we have Manuel Vogel with us. He is AWS evangelist at Kreuzwerker. I have no clue what this role actually is, so I'm really excited to learn more about that. If you're also excited, join me, ask your questions, share your experience. I'm really happy to see you again next week. And until then, yeah, have a nice evening, enjoy, and see you. Bye, Martin.
Bye bye, and thank you for the conversation. And if you want, I'll be back for season 2.
Yes, we will definitely do that. Thank you very much. Bye
Cool.
bye.
Bye bye. See you around.